Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are joining us from. And welcome back to another one of our Kneat webinars. This is a partner webinar presented by Kneat and in partnership with PM Group. We are very happy to have them as one of our many partners in our partner program. And they're here today to talk about operational readiness in pharma. Give us some tips and some idea of what they do to stay operationally ready and how Kneat is a big factor in that for them. Quick stop here at our copyright and disclaimer statement. Again, my name is James Carey. I'm the digital marketing or digital events marketing manager, rather, for Kneat Solutions. If you haven't joined one of our Kneat webinars before, we're glad to have you here. If you have, you'll be familiar with me. Just a few housekeeping items here as we get ready for the webinar. We recommend that you use headset or earphones, something to listen in for the best audio quality. You are in listen-only mode today. You don't have to worry about being on camera or microphone. You are just watching us today, but that doesn't mean that you are excluded from the conversation. We have a few different ways for you to engage today. Over on the right-hand side of your video, you should see a screen very much like this one here. You will first have a chat box. Let us know who you are, where you're joining from, who you're with, where you are in your journey to digitizing validation. We want to know about you. We want to know what you think in your comments along while the presentation is going, so feel free to contribute there. I'll be typing in the chat, interacting with everybody. Our speakers may not be. They may be focusing more on the presentation, but that is a great way to chat with the audience itself. We also have the polling tab. We have a poll that will be running here shortly. It should be active now, but I'll go over the question here in a second. Just a temperature check to see where everyone is at on their journey to digitizing validation, what you know about it, and where you are. That helps us tailor a little bit of the presentation later to that skill set. And then finally, we have our Q&A. At the end of the presentation today, we'll be doing a live Q&A with our speakers. I will ask them as many questions as we have time to get through, so feel free to put in your questions throughout the presentation. Whenever you have them, go ahead and put them in. We'll get to as many as we can after the presentation, before the end of our time here today. And of course, if your question comes up later, or maybe you're watching this again on demand at a later time, you can always email us with your feedback, with questions, or for more information about Kneat Gx or anything that Kneat does. That email address is info@kneat.com. That's info@kneat.com. There'll also be a feedback survey that we send to you in our follow-up emails. That's always a question we get. Probably, since today is Thursday, on Monday or early next week, you will get an email follow-up from this webinar. Thank you for joining us, or sorry you couldn't if you're not here. It will include a link to the recording, a link to all of the slides, and a link to that feedback survey. So you have all of the tools that you need to revisit this conversation later, if you so choose. A quick overview of our agenda today. This is all from our featured presentation here. Our partners at PM Group will give you a little overview about them as an organization if you're not familiar. We have one of our very own Kneat SMEs joining too, to give a little bit about Kneat. If, again, this is maybe your first time joining us, maybe you're not familiar with Kneat or Kneat Gx. And then they'll dive into the real content that you're here for: operational readiness, their tech transfer, system integration, and tools for operational excellence. All exciting topics that we are eager to hear from our friends at PM Group. And then finally, like I mentioned, following the presentation is our live Q&A. We'll do our best to keep everything within the hour, but if there's a lot of questions, we may go over. We want to make sure everyone gets their time to ask their questions. So I want to introduce this poll here. This is already running, so go ahead and put in your answer now. If you haven't, I'll leave it running for a little bit afterwards too. This just gives us an idea in the back end of the experience level of our audience today. So where are you on your journey to digitizing validation? A, starting today with this webinar. You're a blank slate. This is the first you've heard about it, but you're ready to dive in. B, you've got some initial discovery done. You're maybe still doing research, got some prep work and discussions happening in your organization to see if this is the right move for you. C, you're about to launch your first digital validation project, or maybe you just launched your first one and you want to make sure you are doing everything to the best of your ability to make it successful. Or D, you've already got some projects launched, maybe one or two, that are being delivered digitally, and your validation is just digitized already, and you're considering how to scale. Maybe you've got multiple facilities, multiple labs, whatever that may be. You've got multiple sites across the country, across the region, across the globe that you're considering how to scale. So let us know where you are on that. Again, over to the right-hand side of your video should be that polling option there at the top, right along with chat and Q&A. Go ahead and click in there. Let us know where you are. Again, I'll leave this running for a little bit. Maybe we'll address it right before we get to the questions, but we're able to see that information live on the back end here. And then finally, we'll dive straight into it. You don't have to worry about me talking anymore. I am very happy to have these three subject matter experts joining us to speak today. I will let them get into their own backgrounds and bios, but joining us from PM Group, we have Michael Sweeney, the EVAL Electronic Lead, and Fintan Coady, Senior CQV Specialist, from both from PM Group again. And joining us from Kneat, our very own, or one of our very own professional process engineers, is Josh Benson, to give a little bit more insight from the Kneat side of this partnership. We're very, very happy to have PM Group here. They are great partners, and we're eager to hear from them. So I'll let them go ahead and dive in. Michael, Fintan, Josh, take it away.
Hi, you folks. I suppose I'll go first. James, first of all, thanks very much for the introduction. My name is Michael Sweeney. I'm the Electronic Validation Lead with our CQV department in PM Group. We've been partnered with Kneat for just over a year now, and have seen immense benefits. So I was in charge of that program, and still am, and we've just expanded our EVAL team.
Thanks, Mike. I'll kick off. My name is Fintan Coady, a Senior CQV Specialist at PM Group, approximately 2 years now. My background is in the small molecule, large molecule, typically being involved in projects the last 10 years of greenfield sites and operational readiness planning as well. So that's a very brief outline of my career to date, and I'll hand over to Josh.
Thanks very much, Fintan. Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Benson. I'm a process engineer with Kneat Solutions. I've been a process engineer with Kneat for just over 6 years. Celebrated that in early July. Before I joined Kneat, I was a commissioning qualification validation engineer with multiple different companies around different sites where I'm based in Ireland. I've been digitizing processes for 6 years now with Kneat, and I've taken new customers and walked them through initial deployments as well as expansions as well. So really looking forward to talking to you today.
So, folks, just to stress James's point, thanks very much for coming today. We appreciate your time, and we're going to go into we're going to start off with just a high-level introduction to PM Group. So, folks, PM Group are employee-owned, and something we're immensely proud of. Even clients have seen that it's advantageous because our success is the company's success, and vice versa. So we are very proud of that. We have 558 million in average revenue between 2022 and 24. We have over 50 years experience in project delivery, roughly around 30 years with CQV. So we've been on the market quite a long time. I believe the next one's slightly out of date. We're going close to 4,000 when it comes to staff. So again, something we're immensely proud of, and that's across our network. And we have 10 billion capital value of projects managed. So, folks, we are a global company. We have headquarters in Ireland, and then we have various offices in both Europe and the US. And we also have offices to cover our Asian market in China, India, and Singapore. And just to put a little neat twist on this, we have power users across our network in the US, in Asia, and in Europe. And the vast majority of our CQV engineers are standard user trained as well. So, folks, I'm not going to go into too much detail here. I just want to stress that because we've been around for 50 years. We have an extensive client list with major clients, and I think it's important to note that the vast majority of our work is return work. So when we work with clients, it's brilliant to see when they want us bidding for the next project. So, folks, just before I give you over to Josh for the introduction to Kneat and Kneat Gx, I just wanted to show you that we are strategic partners with Kneat. We now have an extensive CQV library built that is open to all our customers. Template-wise, it's the same now with our CSV department. We have a CSV library built to full CSV protocols, and we're now looking into the operational readiness packs. So documentation that's required for operational readiness, we can provide on our own instance. We can also support digitization of the client validation lifecycle on their own instance. We have various clients where we're doing that. And as stated, we have our own workspace in case companies don't want to use their own instance. They can come through PM Group, whether that's using PM Group documentation or their own. And again, it's important to note that because we're partners, we have full access to the Kneat Training Academy and global Kneat support, which is extremely advantageous. Kneat have 24-hour support, and so do PM Group. So when you're dealing with greenfield projects, working outside hours, that's advantageous. So Josh, I'll just give it over to yourself for the Kneat Gx.
Perfect. Thanks very much. So as we mentioned, folks, Kneat Solutions is a company that's based in Ireland, but it also has many employees across the globe in North America, South America, Europe, and indeed in Asia as well. What Kneat Gx is a validation lifecycle management platform on SaaS that digitizes validation enables regulated companies to make validation faster and smarter. Next slide, please. We're digitalizing any work process. That's what we're about. One solution, any process. So it can be anything from method validation, equipment validation, CSV, all of those. We're able to take all of those. We're able to digitize your process and put it into a solution. It's a solution for yourselves. It's your process, your way. Next slide, please. So why do 8 of the top 10 lifecycle companies use Kneat? So as I mentioned there, one platform in your process, and it's purpose-built. We're Part 11 and Annex 11 compliant. It's named there as that platform. It eliminates 100% of the paper requirements for your validation lifecycles. From experience in here, the days of walking around the place with a massive binder and having to do a manual handling course in order to pick it up, those are all a thing of the past. Proven to reduce cycle times, skilled labor hours, and costs as well. Proven to increase first time speed to market. It's easy to use, easy to train, and very scalable as well. Experience with Kneat, I've worked with a lot of customers implement initially with Kneat, but then again, similar to PM, it's a lot of return work. We're expanding with almost every customer that we get in using Kneat. It's audit ready at any time. No more need for the war rooms anymore, where we're going to reduce that. We just have the one platform. It's one solution. Automatically enforces data integrity. Electronic signatures are here to stay. We're not going back to the signature list where everyone's writing it down. You can't read someone's writing. That's all a thing of the past. And paperless test execution, including on-site with smart devices. So these are one of the main reasons why we're seeing a lot of the larger customers going to Kneat and indeed staying with Kneat. Next slide, please. So these are just a few customer results with Kneat. So we'll give you the highlights here. We won't bore you with all of the details, but reduces the equipment changeover time by as much as 85%. This is client data we're showing you here. This isn't numbers that we pulled out of the air. It reduces validation lifecycle time by over 50%. It can reduce the labor costs and the labor hours spent by up to 65%. And indeed, there we've done surveys there where it's been reported that up to $800,000 US in ERP deployment, like a massive savings. So we're talking about almost halving the validation labor hours, halving and leaning out process steps by almost 50%. And then as well as then we like to throw this in, we've been compared to our other competitors as well, and we're 40% more efficient as well. And that's something that we like to hold on to, if not improve upon.
Thanks very much, Josh. So, folks, before we go into the nitty-gritty details of specific areas of operational readiness and where PM Group have seen how EVAL provide advantages to it, we're just going to give a high overview of operational readiness on the next slide. So this is the GMP readiness roadmap, and I'll give it over to Fintan.
Thanks, Mike. So, guys, if we just look at the concept of the slide here, we have typically you've broken into the project into CapEx and OpEx. And traditionally, the first six stages that you're seeing on the screen here take us through, the proposal, the concept, detail design, construction, and CQB CSV. And what we're looking at typically is going into the operational readiness space, which looks at how do we get audit ready, how are we GMP ready and compliant and certified. So when we take a look at stage 7, this is make a batch. This is kind of making a dry run of your batch through your system. And out of that drops a lot of changes and mitigations of risk going forward. So if we look at the next phase of that, it's engineering runs. This is where you're actually running your batch through your process as well. And out of that, we have a lot of automation change requests, change updates, and MES updates. That's kind of like your electronic paper batch record. And then we have loads of deviations, CAPAs, and closeout. So there's a lot of cross-functionals associated with this, PPQ readiness and GMP readiness. But I suppose what we're looking at is defining how Kneat can be applied to support those stages 7 to 9. Next slide, please, Mike. This is not an exhaustive list. There's loads of elements to operational readiness. What PM Group have done is sat down and had innovation workshops where we sat down and said, okay, we've got 6 topics that we think we're strong on. One is using Kneat for digital vision. We're heavily involved in a digital team within PM Group, and they're helping us as a foundation and a pillar to implement dashboards and Power BI dashboards and digital platforms, especially this partnership with Kneat is another digital platform, albeit paper on glass. So we identified automation would be an area where we could document change controls. So Kneat has that ability that it has its entities, and within the entities we have workflows. So it's like putting an automation topic on the hierarchy and drilling down into the different subsections, whether they be automation change requests and issue change controls, all of those items. Materials, we might have some SAP inventory, we have BOM lists, we have vendor managed inventory lists as well that we can document within Kneat. And then operational excellence, which we lightly touch on, which looks at continuous improvement and lean principles. So you might have heard of the make models and using 5-way analysis, issue cover diagrams, all of that stuff. We want to put a standardized platform. We have written reports in PM Group using Kneat as per clients' requests. And then I'll touch on regulatory compliance. This is really an extensive checklist to make sure that you're audit ready. And there's a digital stamp within Kneat to say that all those activities, whether it be documentation complete, training complete, it's a tick box exercise, and Kneat has that ability as well. Some clients are using procedures and training, so they're developing some of their draft SOPs within Kneat, because I think you have to remember it's greenfield sites. Some of their systems aren't set up. They might have a documentation system or they might have an inventory system. So it's always in crude format. It's like Excel. So we're suggesting we replace that with a Kneat platform. On to the next slide, please, Mike.
I'm just going to take over here, folks. The objective of this slide is it's a high-level slide to capture broader bullet points of the advantages of Kneat. But we'll go into further detail in the next ones. This is just a punchy slide to show what we've seen with operational readiness and CQV. And the main areas would be speed. We're obviously seeing faster and execution and turnaround. Compliance, we've automated audit trails, consistent standards. Whatever you do on Kneat, there's an audit trail ready to capture it. There's no hiding, so you can see why QA would love this from an audit perspective. Transparency, we have real-time oversight of projects in progress and deviations. To touch on this, we'll go into it in further slides, but one of the key areas of operational readiness was areas around integrations to dashboards. And these oversights, although you can see them in Kneat, we've taken them a step further where we've linked them to scheduling. So again, from a progress report, that's extremely advantageous. Readiness, there's always inspection ready, not just at audit time. Kneat also has a collections feature where you can have specific sections of your workspace to show. So there's no need for a war room where you have getting ready for an audit where you have multiple folders and stuff like that. Just the specific areas that's subject to that audit can be ready in the collections feature. And again, from an operational readiness perspective, we find that advantageous. And then obviously standardization and consistency. So there's extensive document packs pre-built for operational readiness. The likes of QRAs or FMEAs, testing documents that you need around operational readiness. We've essentially built packs off these templates, and then whatever client wants or needs or doesn't need, we can delete them as required. So the first area that we want to touch on from that high-level operational slide that we just showed is tech transfer. So I'm going to give you back over to Fintan.
Thanks, Mike. So this was a client's ask. So it was really the voice of the customer, and they were having a lot of trouble establishing one repository where all this information was coming from. So tech transfer, some of you might know on the call, is really about sending unit, sending all their information into the receiving unit. And within tech transfer, you have multiple different documents associated with that. There could be your tech transfer plan is your hierarchical document. You might have process flow diagrams, and CPP, critical process parameter gap analysis, and then you might have risk assessments, for example, FMEAs, PHAs, sample plans, non-routine and routine sample plans. So the real advantageous thing about Kneat is that you can have this one central repository where the sending unit can push all their information and you can review that document. So typically it's being sent in an Excel format, PDFs and Word documents as well. Whereas I keep going back to the entity, we have one kind of entity with a workflow beneath it called tech transfer, and all the documents can be easily accessed and drop down into the files. So typically you'd see with tech transfer initiating, planning, providing process method knowledge, prepare equipment and facilities, perform ongoing monitoring. So with that, those unit operations, you have an incredible amount of documentation that's being managed. We've proven this with the project because there's faster analytical method transfers. So what was happening was, if you can imagine, sometimes there's two elements to this. It's done at the bench scale, so you have lab technicians inventing the process, or as you might already have a process that's highly defined in place. And at that stage, all of those process parameters are being updated. So one of the things the client was saying was management around change control. Because if you change it at the bench level, it doesn't mean that it works up at the scaled up version. And when you scale it up, the process doesn't work the way you want it, typically as it's seen at the bench. And with that comes a requirement, specification, updates, and that has a knock-on effect of your execution, which is kind of, you need leaner and tighter control around that process to ensure that you're not going to extend the project time frame as well. So quite simply, we're saying that we're pushed a lot of this technical transfer information into the validate or into the Kneat validation workspace.
And just to stress, I'm just conscious that there could be an audience here that isn't overly familiar with Kneat. We use, Fintan would have just touched it, you would have heard the term entities. We use things on our instance called equipment or system entities. And it's essentially a data-centric approach to your systems where you populate all information about your system and then you'd attach whatever documentation required for there. So we've been doing that for CQV, for qualifications, and there's no reason why you can't do this for operational readiness as well. So it would essentially, you would have to start earlier and bring operational readiness earlier in the project. But it means that you'd not only have a single source of truth for your system, but you'd have a one-stop shop. You wouldn't be going to various softwares. You just go to your entity for your autoclave, and then any kind of operational readiness requirements were there as well as its qualification packs. So, folks, I'm just going to hand you back over to Josh, just to explain the differences between paper-based and glass, and this is very appropriate to tech transfer.
Thanks, Michael. So what we have in front of us here, folks, is just a kind of a process flow diagram of what we typically see when working on paper, or even with a hybrid system that we have. So you start off, you create your document and record it in the electronic system. You upload it to your EDMS. You then send that out for review and approve the document for execution. Then you go back to the way that I used to do my commissioning back when I was doing that, where you print off all the protocols, you're putting them into binders, you're punching all the paper, putting them into poly pockets, so if in case a bit of water spills on it, the documents don't get damaged or anything like that. And then you go down and you begin your execution of that protocol. With anything that you're printing off, you have to attach evidence to show what you're done. Can be kind of stood over in an audit or anything like that. So you need to be printing out printouts, any images from HMIs or anything that you're commissioning. If there's a deviation, that's another form that needs to be attached. If there's any reference to other vendor documentation or anything, you all need to paginate that, put it into poly pockets, and again attach that then to the protocol. Once the protocol is executed and all of that has been done, then the reviews start. And then this is where we would have seen, post-it notes, everywhere on every single page potentially. You have to go through all of them, make sure that none of those get lost, update the documents as required. Initial and date this, you didn't initial and date it the right way, etc., etc. Then that executed binder is passed through all the different reviewers again to make sure that everything was fixed. Document review is complete. Then we print, we scan the binder, inspect it for Alcoa, establish true copy, and then we upload that to the EDMS. And then we issue that for approval, and then we store that binder in doc control center, or maybe like a folder location, a storage unit, or whatever, and have it ready in case we need to print it off there for an audit or anything like that for the war room. Now, if we compare that to what we can do with Kneat, you can see the number of blocks there have completely been reduced. They've almost been halved, in fact. So what we can do within Kneat to increase efficiencies and cut out the repetitive tasks, we create the document within Kneat. So this can be done manually using a previously set up Kneat template, or you can just import in a Word document. That document is sent out for review. The review is a non-mandatory part of it, but it can be enforced. Then that gets sent out for approval. The approval is sent to the exact people that need to approve it. They'll be receiving email notification, so there's no more chasing people around the office. Oh, they're down on the site, let's try and find them, make sure that we get them to sign off on the protocol. They get a notification about it. Then once the documents are approved, then we can start beginning execution of those protocols. Instead of having to get the binders and get everything printed off, put it into poly pockets again, attaching them as appendices, referencing them, that's all gone. We're just uploading the documents directly into the section that we're executing, and they're there as attachments in the document, and they're always going to be there once they're saved within the document. No pagination, compiling, or physical material required at all. That's your execution over. You initiate the review. Again, informal process, but it can be formalized. Once any updates have been made after the review, you're completing the doc review within the application. You issue the document for approval. Again, the approvers are informed, are notified about it. It's in their inbox. They'll see it. And then once that document's approved, there it lives. It lives within the system. It's always available to you. It can be reopened if it's a re-executable protocol, or if it's a URS document or anything like that. It needs to be revised. It can be revised in Kneat. It's always available to you. There's none of this. You're cutting out a lot of the steps and a lot of the inefficiencies. So that's why a lot of customers are using Kneat. So I'd like to hand that back over to Michael.
Thanks very much, Josh. Folks, another element of operational readiness and both CQV, particularly in the project phases for CQV as well, is change controls. And we now have clients that are using Kneat to capture their change controls. So if we go back, not even a year or two, certain customers are still doing a situation where we have a standard approach to change controls, where you would have a software, maybe the likes of TrackWise, where you'd build the change control. Then you'd have separate software where you might be storing design documents that you could possibly need to redline for a specific change control. And then you could have another element of it where you'd have to do retests, and that could even be paper or separate areas. So I suppose what I'm trying to stress here is that it's unconnected, but using Kneat, that changes very different, no pun intended. So you can set up predefined workflows with the change control procedures. This is what we do with clients. You can see that any impacted protocols like design qualifications can be auto flagged for update. And then when a certain task in your change control before pre-approval would be to redline this, and then before post-approval would be to update it. And then you could have built-in retests in your change control pack, or you could actually import specific sections of other protocols or use section group templates. So in our change control pack, we have predefined change control forms, which would have standard questions that you would see on fairly generic change controls. And then you can build in your retests or any other specific questions or actions as required. And it's all in one place. It's one-stop shop. And then you'd simply click a link to your retests, and it would open the section where you do your testing again before post-approval. And I don't want to go into too much detail about certain obvious things, but for people who are new to Kneat, it should be stressed that obviously with electronic signatures, you have no Alcoa principles, it's all in real time. And then probably one of the biggest ones, it seems simplistic, but it's seriously strong when it comes to the speed of getting a change control over the line. And look, conscious with some of these change controls, they're in schedule-driven environments, but it's the collaborative review and approvals. Again, with the old way, you could be sending the commentary and the tasks to one person, they add their comments, the next person gets it. But if Fintan was to sign off for ops and I was to sign off on QA, if we were doing a change control on Kneat, we would both be able to do a review at the same time. We'd be able to align because we'd be able to see each other's comments. So again, it just speeds up the process when it comes to getting the change control approved. So the benefits is speed and traceability. And one thing that I missed there was probably consistency, because obviously if you continuously use the change control packs, then all your change controls will look the exact same, except for tailored areas when required. So, folks, I'm going to open on system integrations because this is fairly keen to my heart, particularly from a CQV and EVAL rep. Folks, with a lot of our clients, they know Kneat, they know EVAL. Okay, so they know the advantages. They're happy to have it set up. So we go to them and go, well, what do you want to see next? What do you think will make it better? And one of the big things is integrations. They want to see data moving. Okay, so PM Group have set up their own task force, which is a combined CQV and digital team, and we all work under an internal project called Project Seed. Now, its end goal, its final end goal is what you see on the screen. It's the idea that we'll have a unified digital platform that integrates construction, engineering, validation data across a project lifecycle. So please take into consideration, PM Group isn't just obviously CQV. We have construction elements, architecture elements, design, okay? But that the system and the system lists start very, very early, as you all know, before CQV. So the idea here is if you have construction software like PIMS or IDA, you're building your system list, you're building data about your system. And then what happens is, well, I go in Kneat and then I start doing it all over again. Well, there's no real need to do that if we start looking at integrations. So information that you have on one software, let's just say for a starting point, the construction software is then transferred to a validation software like Kneat. And then that's finally transferred over to any software that's supporting operational readiness, like SAT. And that's where entities come in, these entities we're talking about, because it is a data-centric approach which has a pull push system. So that's our end goal. We're not there yet. But because we've started this already, we've created some really, really cool tools that we're already using with clients. Probably one of the biggest ones is an integration system with our Kneat instance and Primavera P6 scheduling. But I'll let Fintan go into that in more detail. But again, just from a CQV lead perspective, it is really cool. So this is real-time project tracking. Fintan, I'll give it over to yourself.
Thanks, Mike. So traditionally, what we've seen is that we develop a P6 schedule, and we're seeing that how we update that schedule is we go out to the floor, and we're on the shop floor asking for status updates. And then if those of you familiar with Primavera software, it's like you add that in either 25%, 50%, and then holistically we look at that and see where we are within the project. And what we've been asked to do is drive that start and end date through the Primavera schedule, but give the status through Kneat. So we've created this API and this integration hub where we're now looking to pull a lot of the information from the stage of pre-approval to post-approval. That was the gray area within Kneat. And now we've kind of we've linked that back. We found a systematic way of how to get that percentage complete. And of course, once we know we've got transparency about that, if it's off track, we know that we've got a lot of risks associated with that activity, let's call it, and that we can mitigate that. So it's a really powerful tool. But what we wanted to do is, in very complex projects, you'd have thousands and thousands of lines of activity IDs. We want to really just wrap it up into one source of truth, and what we call it, it's for a client in Switzerland at the moment, it's called a watchtower, and it's giving a kind of pulse of the project by using that data. So there's a lot of data sitting in different pockets and different silos, and we've consolidated into one place, pulled all the information from Kneat, and kind of just display it in a visual form. And we can show you a couple of dashboards to the effect. So here you've got one dashboard for the client in Switzerland, and within schedule adherence, they wanted to bucket it out under OPEX, so the design and construction CQV, the CapEx side, and then the OPEX side, which is typically when they move into PQ, and then operational activities as well. So what they've done within their Primavera schedule, they have PQs of, could be mixing studies, could be temp mapping, autoclave, cycle development, all of that kind of stuff fell under PQ, but they wanted to wrap it in all the ORP readiness documents as well into that one source of truth. So we've done it. So this is kind of a clear indicator that you go in. This is a tier structure, okay? So it's like this is a tier 3, customer and client come in and they look at it. And then to the right of that, you see a risk register. So of course, with any delays, you want a clear kind of pathway to identify what the risks are. Just to note that we've also built for the client in a critical path. So it's a button just as you click to show the critical path of activities, and also S curves, and then a very dynamic way to run Monte Carlo analysis, which is a kind of consolidated approach to all the schedules. With this, there's a demand forecast. So that's the next phase. They've asked us to integrate to SAP systems and QC systems as well, such as LIMS, to see batch by batch how the performance is with CPPs in their batches as well. So Mike, so this is a good slide because this is a smaller project. It's for a purified water skid, but as you can see, this is live data. So it's talking to Kneat currently. And what it's doing is, we call it a push-pull command. It looks at the tables within your document and sees how far you are advanced to that. It pulls it back in. So the good systematic approach here is we have a Gantt chart. Now, this is showing us that all these documents are delayed, right? Because they should go green. So you see the pane in the top right. That's a clear indication of where the doc status is. And it moves like a Gantt chart. So daily, you'll see a red bar moving to the right. And it gives a good indication to CQV leads or project leads exactly where they should be. Down on the bottom left, you've got the documents and you've got the status of the documents, the version control, and then a link. So that's a good systematic way to click on the link, and it'll bring you to your electronic validation, your Kneat document. And then on the top, it's just a document list. An overall project timeline is down the bottom of the right. It's a Gantt chart as well. So what we're trying to do is, there's a lot of data behind it, but we've consolidated it into our API, our tenancy, or our container. We pull it out of the tenancy and we build a dashboard as such with this.
Do you mind if I just took?
No, go for it.
Folks, just from a real life situation, without this, I was a CQV lead on a greenfield project, and the amount of manual hours wasted on going to a scheduler, updating them, telling them what you have approved, telling them what you have into review, and then they go to their tiered meetings and then give management updates. That information could be already out of date because you've already got a couple more CTUs approved on the floor. This is all real life data. So anything that this isn't saying, so if it's not approved here, it's not approved essentially. Everything to the left is all real-time data from a Kneat. So if I click that link, went to that CLA and approved it, it would automatically update the Primavera. So that manual labor of giving your scheduler updates, it's gone. You don't do it anymore, because all your scheduler has to do is look at this before his scheduling meeting. And we have constant workshops with Kneat. We have various continuous improvement models. The client in Switzerland, we said, they were very happy with this. We said, well, what do you want to see next? And one of the big ones was percentage completion on documents. So what we're planning for the next phase of this is, in between versions and link here, we're actually going to have a percentage complete, where if you post-approve certain elements of your document, your IQ prereqs, the start of IQ, certain tests, they will all have percentages, and then it'll tell you 56. So a scheduler could come around and go, okay, well, the CLA isn't approved, but they're 77% there. It cuts down a hell of a lot of time on the floor.
No, it's perfect. And just one final thing, like, what really found a great benefit was clicking on the critical path button. So you might see 10 activities there. You click on the critical path, and it brings up probably the 3 top priority actions. So at least if you were leading a project, we need to hone in on these 3 activities in order to bring the project back on track. The next slide, please. I'll kick off. So I suppose this was an ask. It was the voice of the customer of a client that specifically wanted the expertise in-house. We've got a lot of compliance regulatory SMEs in-house. We've supported a lot of FRAs, functional risk assessment, quality risk assessment, and we were doing it on Excel sheets. So as you know, we saw the availability and need to supply this need to document everything on line by line and carry out a risk potential number. So that's when you kind of sit around and look at the occurrence and probability, all of that good stuff associated with quality risk assessments. And we said the idea of this is that we were able to trace each of those activity or line IDs back to either the requirement specifications. So potential need solutions we looked at was hazard identification and risk analysis, whether that be MEA analysis or risk or PHA risk analysis as well. And the benefit is, of course, we're talking about, again, it's an entity. We've been asked to support cross-contamination strategies as well under the quality umbrella, and that becomes an entity with subfolders beneath that. So I think it's a good quick run through line item by line item, and a digital signature on each as well to say that risk has been complete.
We've already built risk assessment packs, and whether they're system specific or higher level, it's just a case of where you want them on the workspace. So again, it shows the advantages of having your operational readiness earlier in the phase, linking it to Kneat, and having those aligned with your systems. So, folks, our last piece is we're going to touch on operational excellence. You would have seen this on the broad operational readiness slide, and just areas that we found that Kneat is beneficial, and areas in the future where we want to start linking them.
Okay, this is additional. This is kind of an audit readiness checklist. Okay, so there's loads of different components that you have to tick the box to say you're compliant. And that could be, is your quality management system in place? Is your SOPs in place? Training complete? Equipment qualified and maintained? There's EMPQ as well, so environmental monitoring in clean rooms. Is that all carried out, or all QC results complete? Batch records complete? All the automation recipes shaken down? So that's a generation of a list. So what we said was, with GMP and audit readiness, is we develop a template with these checklists involved that look at checking all the execution, digital records in place. And when we wanted to wrap it up, as we thought earlier on, is we wanted to create a dashboard with this to understand where we are within the project. And Mike touched on it as well, a little bit of quality by design. So the M group always implement these systems and ways of working at the design phase, especially quality risk assessments. Quality risk assessments that I've seen in industry with biologics typically happen after the handover, where you've got some procedural updates to do, but you've no flexibility to have engineering controls or change some of the engineering controls as such. So this is kind of just a checklist to show you that we're compliant, we're ready to go. So and as we said, it's just a digital signature. It's paper on gas exercise, but it really helped the client understand and shape their journey and pathway to audit readiness.
and I suppose something else that'll link to this next slide is in regards to the training, Fintan. Just to obviously with audit readinesses and GMP, you'll want to make sure your staff is trained. And again, you can make that system specific, that they're trained in their areas where they're working. So I'll give you over again.
Yeah, sure. So this is something that the digital department, I keep talking digital because within PM we've got digital hubs per function. One of them was a collaboration with digital hubs to look at training, how we can specialize in getting away from AR and VR, because we've got a lot of feedback from industry about it's not really a tool that is developed. It's caused a lot of headaches with operators, with goggles and stuff. So we created a desktop application, and really this is a BIM model. This is a facility of a biologics facility down in Limerick who gave us their BIM model, 3D, and we developed the surroundings. And we have a model of a person walking through. So there's two elements to this. One is that we're showing people their processes, and we're also putting up questions to see if they understand and they comprehend, the ask of the process as well. So this is kind of a new product that we've developed, and we've engaged with a lot of clients with this. There's a lot of interest. We take SOPs, we review SOPs, we take the training, we review the training, and we look at quality risk assessments as well to see if we can develop the game and call out those aspects of it, including safety. But as I said, it's gathered a lot of interest. Happy to show this further development if required, but back to you on that.
Yeah, and I suppose with Gameo, the next step is, and we're setting up workshops with Kneat, is I actually want to link this with Kneat. Again, if you think about your one-stop shop, and if you have a model, say, let's get a little bit more specific and say a parts washer, you would have a parts washer entity on Kneat. You would have all its qualification documentation. Maybe you want to add your SOP for your parts washer on that entity. And then we're going to integrate Gameo with Kneat. So you would click your entity, you would click your Gameo link, and then Kneat would bring you to the Gameo software for that parts washer, where you could teach your new resource how to load it up, the different ways to turn on cycles, but it's a one-stop shop for your system, and again, it's not far off. We think it would be extremely advantageous, particularly in situations where there's going to be systems where obviously process rules, process dictates, because we obviously have to make the product. And a lot of times I found when I was doing training on the floor, you wouldn't be able to do the actual training because process had the system. In this way, with Gameo, you could train at the desk, even on specific loads for an autoclave. So we've been looking at that. But again, you could link this to an equipment entity on Kneat. So, folks, I'd just like to thank you for your time. And I'm just going to open it to questions. Might give it back to James, and I just want to thank James for setting it up as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Fintan, and thank you, Josh, for a great presentation. We've had a lot of comments in the chat keeping up, and we have several questions that are put in here, so we'll get right to them. I'm going to start with some of our seed questions because those have been upvoted. So I'm going to start with the most popular. So everyone, if you have questions still, please feel free to put them in there. We have a few minutes left to go through your questions live. If there are any questions that you see that you want to upvote, I will be looking at the most upvoted first. So that is how you can influence that. So a couple of our seed questions that people were interested in. What kind of efficiencies have you seen with clients on the Primavera P6 and Kneat integration?
Do you mind if I take that?
No, go for it.
I actually already, I kind of touched on this, but it's the main efficiency that I seen was speed of information. So there's no delay, and your data is live. It can't be out of date, because if you're on that dashboard with the Kneat and the Primavera integration, if you haven't done your post approval of your documentation, your Primavera is going to stay the same. Okay, so again, when a scheduler is going to a whiteboard or any kind of tiered meeting, they could literally just open this and they could show them. So that's probably the hours saved from a management perspective. and probably speed of information. That's probably the two strongest efficiencies. But again, going back to my point, there was a time where, particularly when in schedule-driven environments, particularly when it was they needed certain priority systems over the line. Half my job was telling schedulers where they were, and then asking my CQV engineers where they were. You can cut me out there by just having that integration, and my CQV engineer, who's in charge of his his or her parts watcher, just post approves and then Primavera updates. So yeah, hours saved, and then just the speed of information.
And just one last thing, I suppose, Mike, like it gives transparency about where you are within the
That's a good
execution.
point. Yeah.
So what's happening is the client knows if we're at 75%, we've got a couple of things left to execute, but yeah, we're getting very close. It's due tomorrow. They know that they're not going to hit that date, so it's about mitigating the risk up front.
Yeah.
So there's full transparency there. We're getting close, but yet we're only 25% complete, and they start calling out the risk mitigations. How can we get this back on track, this activity?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for that answer. Next question that is most upvoted. What's the most important factor in ensuring a smooth handover to operations?
It's all around the scheduler, right? I've seen it before, very robust schedule, and for handover collaboration within the teams. So what we've seen is if we're, say for example, mechanical completions, where it's a team effort, you have contractors, you've got the client, you've got ourselves in there. It's hard to get those people into one place at the one time. So it's important that there's transparency and a look ahead on the schedule. We see typically now the industry's gone for pull plans, and they really do work.
Yeah.
Because you're working backwards from the task. So you have to embed that within the pull plan to show this is the date that the system's going to get handed over. This is the requirements. These are the materials and resources required to do it.
And again, that's where dashboards are extremely efficient, because they'd support the pull plans. I'd go as far as saying they'd almost act as a virtual war room, in the sense that if everybody had access, vendors they'd know where each prerequisite was.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I was just putting our names back up there. Somebody in the chat asked for the names of presenters. So there we are. Thank you for that answer or that question. We have one here we have several here from Mario that I'm a little hesitant to get into because they will take a good amount of time, I think. But Mario's got a 3-part question here. So I'll go through all of it here, and then we can take it piece by piece. So Mario has several questions. If we say that 8 of the top 10 biggest pharma companies are using Kneat, Mario would be interested in the following. A, which processes have they implemented? B, is Kneat always the only application, or is it among other solutions? And C, how many processes have been deployed globally and are the only one for supporting a certain process, e.g., for example, CSV? This question might be a little bit out of the scale of what we can get into today, but I'm curious to see if we have any answers to his questions. Which processes have we seen implemented globally, and what other tools are implemented with Kneat, or is Kneat the one tool that people are looking at? The thoughts from you guys?
CQV is the obvious one. So our first clients, and when I was client based, when I seen them implement Kneat, the CQV would have been normally the first area, because it's obvious you'd have a vast amount of protocols, you'd have a vast amount of execution protocols, and then you'd have supporting design protocols like URS and DQ. So it makes sense to have CQV under a one-stop shop. Another area is CSV. We have a lot of clients who would use it for CSV, not exclusively, both CSV and CQV. And I suppose one of the main points of this is that we're looking and thinking slightly out of the box and going, well, it's a fantastic platform. it should really be implemented for various elements of documentation. And we were like, well, what has documentation? Operational readiness and change controls. And so there's, as I said, I've seen certain clients use them for change controls and elements of operational readiness, but it wouldn't be as strong as CQV and CSV.
So I just want to add a point to that. I suppose if we're thinking about it, it's a greenfield site, some of these projects, okay?
Yeah.
And then there's probably some of the systems aren't in place. And we talked about them, whether they be laboratory information systems or inventory systems or automation systems. They might be there yet, okay? And I suppose you have to start somewhere where we're developing, say, sample plans to supplement LIMS. That can all be done in the Kneat kind of strategy. We're not saying that it's going to replace those systems track-wise. They're going to supplement them in some regards. And we talked about the transition. And that's why it's a smooth transition, that we can just have that one source of truth in Kneat that we can then pull into and transfer to either, our BOM systems, SAP systems, all of that good stuff.
It's a really, really good point. I forgot to mention that. As Fintan says, if you're on a greenfield site, you might not have SAP. Let's use SAP as an example, okay, because it's very, very popular, particularly for like maintenance management and stuff. But because file entities are data centric, you could start even at the design phase of building information for your system. And then when you're ready, you could do an integration between Kneat and SAP and then pull that forward. So you're not, again, starting from scratch at SAP. You've already started populated information about your system that can be pulled forward. And vice versa, we have seen the opposite, where established sites have SAP systems and then they build system lists or various system entities using SAP information. I wouldn't say that Fintan has put it perfectly. Think integrations, and they can work very well together.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. That was a complicated question and requires a complicated answer. But Mario, I'm going to have someone reach out to you as well separately just to follow up on that, make sure you're getting all of the answers that you need out of there. Back to one of our upvoted seed questions here as we round out our time. Where do you see opportunities for digital tools or dashboards to support operational readiness? Maybe this ties in pretty well with the integrations we were just talking about.
I think at the outstart of a project, you need some kind of governance model, right? And then the governance model has tiers. And for tiers to look at the pulse of the project or to understand, are they on track or are they doing well? You need a dashboard, right? So a lot of Pharma have invested digital tools, but they're kind of raw boards. But what we're saying is we've used the voice of the customer for many different clients around Europe that have all said we need to look at the standardization of a dashboard and a commercial off-the-shelf dashboard. That it's a plug and play. And that's what they're looking to do. They're looking to develop a dashboard that for one project we can move in. We're using it internally, but externally the feedback has been good as well. So the opportunities are embedding that at the start of the project, right? Power BI is very powerful, I suppose. We have kind of coders here that put it on steroids, that it links to so many different trackers. It links to other Power BI boards, it links to Excel sheets, it links to digital systems. So the opportunities are vast, but I think you need to start at the very design stage of the process, implement the dashboards, understand what the KPIs are telling us, and how do we mitigate risks is important going forward.
And it's important to stress that we have clients now using these dashboards and the feedback is nothing but positive. And as Fintan says, these are plug and play scenarios. We come in and explain and link them to Kneat, but then they are tailored. They do have the ability to be tailored. So if there's elements that a client doesn't require, they can be chopped and changed. It's a huge area, and again, it's with schedule-driven environment, we have to start thinking one-stop shop.
Excellent. Thank you for those answers. Sorry, weighing here. We have 3 more questions, all from the same person. I'm going to push a little bit more time over here. I'll try not to go more than 5 minutes over. But I want to get to a couple of these last questions here from Michael. This one might be more for Josh, but I'm interested in everyone who wants to answer. But Kneat licenses are normally limited, and appear to be opening up the need for a lot more licenses. Michael says infinite licenses across the business, and it comes, of course, at a significant cost. So, does the suggested efficiency outweigh the cost of having that many licenses into Kneat? Or maybe, Josh, this is a better twist on the question: is how can organizations and businesses deal with needing a lot of different people to access Kneat, but maybe not wanting to or not being able to purchase that many licenses?
I believe I think there's a couple of different ways you can go around it. I think one of the main ones is just trying to be smart with who has access, who you're granting access to the system, and is it required. We have it inside. We have internal instances of Neat that we feel as though everyone feels as though they need access to it. And then when you start looking at the user admin side of the site, you kind of say, well, these people haven't logged on in months. Why are they taking up a valuable license plate? So there's items like that. I think regarding the cost, it's probably a small bit out of my scope in my job. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, I'd say have a conversation with your Neat account manager. But I would be interested if the PM folks have any other opinions on this.
We have brought similar situations to Neat, and I know my previous success manager was looking into them, where uh, we were looking at trying to build CTOP and VTOPs on Neat, but then obviously there'd be a vast amount of vendors that would need requirement. What I was told was that Neat were open to other licensing areas just once their partner was showing a good case for it. Similar to what Josh said in relation to licensing, you should also take into consideration that licensing can be switched. Like we've had situations where if a person was no longer on a project or didn't need it or wanted switched out, we didn't need two licenses. We would just deactivate that license and restart with the new name. So there are tweaks and ways of doing it, but again, I don't want to talk for Neat. Josh would be right in saying that sales are the best option there to discuss that.
Absolutely. And I did selfishly sort of answer that question so I could get a hand on the ball here as well. But Josh mentioned a Kneat account manager. If you're new to Kneat, if you're a new customer, getting set up is easy. You meet with a customer service rep. We help you set up your instance of Kneat, identify who the most strategic folks in your organization are to have that license, and we'll walk through you to get you all set up. And our customer service is always on hand to help consult on how you're best using Kneat, how to tackle problems like that. So you're not just left to figure it out on your own or pay more money for licenses. We're always here to help at every step of the way as you're a customer at Kneat. So definitely wanted to mention that as well. A couple more here from Michael. I'm going to go with this one. Are you able to link the project tracking to a client instance?
We've done it.
Done it, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes. The answer to that, we have it on our own instance, but the client we've mentioned in Europe, they have their own Kneat instance, and they have their own digital dashboard that we've created, and the link is with theirs. Obviously, it's not because they have no projects on our instance. It would make no sense. So yes, you can.
Excellent. Easy answer for an easy question. And then last one here from Michael, and then we'll wrap it up. Use of CC in Kneat limited to Project CC only, or are you suggesting it replaces a system like TrackWise in Ops? Now, this is asked a bit ago, so I have lost what CC means, but I'm hoping you guys
Change
are
control.
following. There you go. Thank you.
Well, I can speak for Neat. Sorry, Sorry, Michael, we're kind of walking on
No,
top of
no,
each other here.
go ahead, Josh, please.
Yeah, no, I would say that I have set up change control processes for new customers. Yeah, Michael is correct. There's project change control can be set up as well, but I have set up change control processes within Neat. Now, whether that replaces a system like TrackWise or not, that's not for me to say. Um, Obviously, I think we're going to compete with a system like TrackWise. I think it's probably a few more features that we probably need within the system, but for Neat internally, we use Neat as our change control system, and we have our our quality department uses it for that.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, that is all of the questions that we had. So thank you to everyone in the audience who submitted those questions. And again, a huge thank you to Michael, to Fintan, to PM Group in general, and also to Josh for joining in on this conversation. I think this was very insightful. I think our audience thought so as well, given the number of questions and engagement in the chat. This was a great topic. We really love to hear from our partners on webinars like these. So hopefully we will get PM Group back in the future. One great way to ensure that happens is there will be a follow-up survey emailed out to you early next week. I had a couple questions come in about that as well. Like I said, we probably don't send it out on Fridays, but early next week you'll get an email thanking you for joining the webinar, giving you resources like the recording of this webinar to watch over again, as well as the full slide deck to peruse and view at your leisure and reference back on, or to share with your colleagues. So with that, you'll get all of those resources as well as the feedback link. The most important part of that feedback survey is to let us know what you want to hear about next. Here at Kneat, we have several channels of webinar, including thought leadership, partner webinars. We do customer exclusive webinars for our customers, focusing on any new features that are coming out, new updates to Kneat, where you can hear about everything coming out first. And we also do a monthly demo webinar. If you want to see Kneat Gx more in action, you can see it in that demo webinar at the end of every month, or by scheduling a one-on-one personal demo with one of our sales solutions engineers on Kneat.com. Again, thank you everyone for coming out. We hope to see you at one of those future Kneat webinars or future events in person. Please check out Kneat.com and follow us on LinkedIn and X for more of that information. And also give a look at PM Group and see what else they are doing with Kneat and with all of their clients and organizations as part of their business. Thank you again, Michael, Fintan, and Josh for joining us, and we will see you all next time.
Thanks, James.